Tripartite committee set up by the federal government, they are meeting today, on this issue, even though the labor unions have made us understand that they are standing their grounds on 615,000 naira as a new minimum wage, and they are also insisting on May 31st as deadline. Well, so far, we haven't heard anything from the federal government. They haven't presented a nationally acceptable minimum wage for Nigerians. But on May 31st, that's what Labour is saying. That's the deadline, for Nigeria to have a new minimum wage. Don't forget that the old minimum wage of 30,000 naira expired on the 18th of April.
And how many states have paid that?
Well, that's the conversation across. But 615,000. Labour is insisting it has to be that amount or nothing.
Joe Ajero is an associate of mine. Labour civil society organization, and he needs to do better. He needs to do better. This is unrealistic. I understand what he's trying to do, but you can't play chess the lives of Nigerian workers. 615,000 will not happen. There's no way if you just do the numbers, just calculate it by the number of civil servants we have. We have today a budget of about 27 trillion naira. That wage bill alone will probably amount to about 10 to 15 trillion naira. If you go that way, it's impossible now. What am I even saying? It's far more than that. The government does not have the revenue base. We have to be realistic. You can't be going to a meeting with something that is patently, obviously ridiculous. They won't take you seriously now. So I think Mr. Joe Ajero, he really needs to wake up to the job he has. It's a huge burden that is on his shoulders. And it appears as though the way he goes about these things, it appears as though he doesn't understand the weight of history that is upon him. The Labour leader, next to the president of Nigeria, is one of the most powerful public figures in this country. We've seen them in the past. We've seen the influence and the impact that they had on the national conversation and the course of history in this country. When you mention the certain names like Okori, even Adams Oshiomhole.
And even on the psyche of the people.
Yes. So Joe Ajero, he has a unique opportunity to be a name in the history and the annals of Nigeria, but he's not using it well at all. Go into that negotiation, come up with a realistic number that has factored in the reality of the times, the revenue profile of the federal government, the revenue profile of the state government, the performance indicator with regards to the old minimum wage. Which ones have paid? Which ones have not paid? The ones that have not paid, why have they not done so? How much are they owing? You have to take all of those factors into the computations that you will do. Then develop a figure that you will take to the government. When they see the intellectual rigor that has gone into your proposal, it will be difficult to refuse. So if you go, for example, with a 150,000 naira proposal, it's still high, very high. But at least you can maybe show your workings, as Nigerians will say, show your workings. How did you do this? But to just pluck a figure from the air, perhaps because you did conversion of minimum wage in the UK, how bad?
Well, Mr. Shopito, I can tell you from the top of my head, ridiculous. Those indices you mentioned perhaps were not what was factored in. I'm sure they went with what's the current price of bag of rice, bag of gari in the market. Probably that's how we arrive at 615,000.
They looked at the exchange rate and looked at minimum wage, which is about $6 to $7 per hour in the US, and about 6 or 7 pounds per hour in the UK. And they just converted it to naira. Do the numbers. It will come to around 550, 600,000. That's what they've done. And you cannot do that because the economic environment in those places is far different from what we have here. They are far ahead, light years ahead in terms of development, in terms of policy, initiatives, in terms of corruption and the control thereof. There are so many factors, so you can't just convert. You have to face the reality on ground so that they will take you seriously.
Okay.
On
this 615,000.
But don't forget.
But even if the government pays that, are we not thinking of the implication of that?
Inflation and all that.
To inflation. I mean, maybe we'll be renting one room for 2 million at that point in time. Okay, let me hear Mr.
Go
ahead.
But one thing there is this. a government.
But do you think it's unrealistic?
Well, based on what they declare to us as our finances, it's not realistic. Based on what they declare.
They being the federal government.
Yes.
Okay.
That one is one. Two, the government that he said is that his own oil for his own citizen, the international price is going to determine it. But they don't want a minimum wage that will be based on international price. That one is one thing. Yes, now.
That's a good point.
That's not.
It's a valid point. It's a valid point.
That he's saying there is going to be increment in bomb price because of international price of crude oil. Did not want the minimum wage that will be based on international markets. We need to use UK's minimum wage as a benchmark. Another thing again is this. With this kind of government, I won't blame Ajero. This government that we have, if it doesn't go higher like that, I'm telling you, if you go with 30,000 naira, 900, they will still cut it. So if you don't even give them a miles to climb, even if you want to cut it at least, you arrive at, because he knows them. Then another thing again is this. Let us be frank with ourselves. I always tell people, I have worked for people that I said that he's going to pay so amount. I said no problem. Get me a card. I'll be taking me from home to a place you want me to consult for you for the number of days I want to. Then two, when I come, I'll come on Monday, leave on Friday. Get me a place that is good for me to sleep. And he's paying what he wants to pay, and I'm enjoying it. I'm a proponent of that. Because what take money away from people?
Transportation,
accommodation. If that one is out of it, that is the area. But this government that we have will not build house for any civil servant. The one they build, civil servant cannot even afford to pay. Only civil servant that stole can be able to buy from them. So what is important here is this. I think I agree that the Labour leaders need to think very well dealing with the people. And they should put it at the back of their mind. Whatever they agree upon, this government at the end of the day, they will not stick to agreement. Put it. We have the one of Nasu, Asu. What has come out of it? Nothing has come out of it. The one of Doctor. What is on it? Nothing will come out of it. So any union leaders that wants to really bargain with this government must think twice, and they should have plan B. Another thing again that is so important that we need to let government know is this. There are a lot of civil servants, apart from loan that they've taken and they are now repaying. I know a civil servant. I will not mention the local government in Lagos State. I saw the pay of that guy every month. He has 2 kids. Every month, what comes to him is 10,000 naira. He's a level 10 officer. 10,000 naira is what you call it. The reason there is this. The amount that he's collecting, he has collected loan. One from one particular bank, one from cooperative, one from one, almost like 3 loans. Now he's 10,000 and he has 2 kids. And he has to transfer himself to work at least 4 times in a week. So they must be able to know that it's very important for them to look into this issue of minimum wage so that the lives of, no matter the name we want to give the civil servants, they are still the engine room, although they also have come out. But they are still the engine room. Let us take care of them. The way you take care of your political appointees, the minimum wage of 600 whatever that you have. Do you know how many? If you are a special assistant to a governor, do you know what that person takes every month with the allowances? Even if you have a school sat and you are a special assistant or special, even a general akobata of any governor is collecting more than 600,000. General akobata, that his only job is to make sure akobata you just kobata pack the shoe. He's collecting more than 600,000 every month now.
All right, like I mentioned earlier, the tripartite committee set up by the federal government to look into this issue of the new minimum wage is meeting in Abuja today. And that committee is headed by Vice President Kashim Shettima. The committee was inaugurated on the 30th of January this year. So we're talking about upwards of 4 months, and still we do not have a minimum wage. But Labour is insisting 31st May deadline for the new minimum wage, and whether or not 615,000 naira will be Nigeria's minimum wage. We do not know. I needed to consult my.
But another conversation is the private administration.
Don't worry, then we have to follow suit. Something has to happen. Alright, it's not funny anymore. It's not.